Now, if there's a big issue or topic happening where you live in the South and Southeast region and you'd like to talk about it, do let us know at asiawide@islamchannel.tv. Now we look at the Islamic philanthropy industry in Indonesia, where since the end of the Suharto era in the 90s, its popularity has boomed. Southeast Asian countries have witnessed an unprecedented development of Muslim NGOs working on humanitarian and relief projects. A series of natural calamities, communal conflicts, and continued levels of poverty have appealed Muslim relief NGOs to deliver aid for the victims. However, with the flourishing of this industry, how is it affecting the need to address the systematic and structural problems which has contributed to this in the first place? We ask the causes to its rise, its function and its controversies with the recently appointed head of the Zakat Board of Muhammadiyah, Dr. Hilman Latif, which is the second largest Islamic organisation in the country with approximately 29 million members.
Muhammadiyah is one of the largest civil society organization in Indonesia. It was founded by a cleric, a young man at the time in 1912, Ahmad Dahlan, whose grandsons now is staying in London, that I'm going to meet them. Muhammadiyah now has been organizing thousands of schools, okay, both Islamic or non-religious schools, hundreds of universities, hundreds of hospitals and clinics. So it's a huge organization and the largest, in my view, in terms of organization. Yeah. In the past, within 100 years, Muhammadiyah is trying to be part of the government partners. Okay, they work with the communities, dealing with welfare issues, social services, education, da'wah, and economic project and so forth. Muslim mainly channel their money through the Zakat board in the mosque, right? Within the communities, the small group or small committees created by mosque board of trustee, for example, and Muslim community channel their money, the zakat or infaq or sadaqah, through this mosque. This is still happening until now. I mean, the way they channel the money and the way they distribute it to the communities in a more traditional ways. Okay, the benefactor should come to the mosque, right, and say, this is my zakat or this is my sadaqah or infaq. But then, beside this practice, a new development also can be found in the society through philanthropic organization. This is interesting how the Muslim society organized zakat and sadaqah in the past 20 years, because previously we know that a lot of zakat board in the communities, that's not well organized, just collecting fund and then distribute directly and so forth. But then after facing a crisis, right, at the end of 1990s, Indonesian communities represented by Muslim organizations attempt to create a more sophisticated and well zakat organizing. Okay, let's say we call Muslim Philanthropy or Islamic Philanthropic Organization, whose works not only to relief of the poor in slum of the cities, but also they can bring the aid to deliver aid for the victims of the disaster and so forth. And it can be seen the rise of Islamic philanthropy in the past 15 or 20 years. In particular, in post-tsunami, when Aceh was struck and destroyed by very strong tsunami. And at the time, Muslim communities realized that what they did in the past is not sufficient yet to cover the problems. At least they have to create a professional organization that can deliver aid to deserved beneficiaries rightly, and they can provide development project and so forth. So this is interesting that Muslim society now found well, what we call the significance in creating charitable organization. That's the argument mainly formulated by observers, that a weak state can stimulate a strong philanthropy, or vice versa. The strong state cause weak philanthropy. In many cases, we could see this, especially in developing countries, right? When the state couldn't reach or couldn't deliver the welfare systems in the society, like Indonesia is very huge country with 230 million people. There are some groups of society who can benefit the state project, the state program, but there are also plenty of people, a lot of people who couldn't reach the state scheme. Okay, like in education, a lot of orphanage, then school leavers, okay, and low-income families in certain areas. So, in this sense, philanthropic organization can play their part, okay, to get in touch with the society. Well, to some extent, they fulfill what the state should do, actually. Among Muslims, we see it new development. Okay, in the past, Muslim organization usually work on charities, so welfare, right, and as well as social services. While these activities remains, they face a new era when they also consider new strategy, how to develop their organization, how to adopt the concept of development, how to modernize their type of activism. And therefore, the interaction between Muslim NGOs and Western secular NGO, or even secular NGOs, stimulate the rise of new type of Muslim social activism, especially the type of NGO. They can deal with development project, empowerment, right? Women empowerment, for example, economic empowerment, and so forth. So this is interesting to look at the transformation of Muslim NGOs in the past 30 years, for example, in Indonesia, as well as I think in other part of the world. In some way, I can say yes. Yeah. In particular, in post-economic crisis in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, at the end 1990s, a lot of people then jobless. They are fired from the companies, and the economic growth in the country didn't work well. But then civil society see this as an opportunities, okay? How to optimize, to dig more fund from the society, and how to distribute it in a more sophisticated ways, okay? Like how to create income generating projects, for example, in the slum of the cities as well in rural areas. And this indicates Muslim consciousness about the economic gap, the social disparities between the rich and the poor. In many cases, a lot of rich people, especially within Muslim communities, wanted to share, yeah, to help, yeah, to share their funds, how to engage with the communities, but they don't have any idea how to deliver it directly. So the rise of Islamic philanthropy is can be one of the alternative how to make a bridge, right, between the rich and the poor. In my views, charity is still political in a way that civil society's activities represent their engagement with the problems. Okay, despite the fact that a lot of criticism, okay, charity would not change the world, would not change the economic disparity and so forth, but still this are political in a way that's, hey, we are working for the communities. Okay, there are some people who are not rich by the government's scheme, as I said. Okay, political in a way that also charity, philanthropy, and public funds should be regulated. Now, after 100 years, the Muhammadiyah seek a new strategy, how to recreate, to reborn, to contextualize their movement, their project for the next 100 years. Because now they have thousands of schools, okay, hundreds of hospitals. So what is the next? Now, this is a big question mark raised by many activists of the Muhammadiyah, and now they are struggling to formulate a new way for the next 100 years. This suggests that as a reform movement, Islamic reform movement, Muhammadiyah wants to discover a new thing, yeah, to invent new ideas, words for the communities. This is interesting. If you look at, I'm gonna tell you briefly. In the past, we discussed a lot of religious issues, like in ibadah, right? Or how to do salat appropriately, zakat, sadaqah, hajj, and fiqh, dealing with Islamic jurisprudence. But now, in the past 10 years, I found new interesting when they are dealing with new ideas, new issues like environment. Okay, they just formulate what we call the fiqh of disaster. Fikih kebencanaan in bahasa Indonesia. How Islamic fiqh talk about disaster. How Islamic fiqh formulates and shape their thoughts about water. There is a discussion about fikih air. Air means water. So how Islamic jurisprudence deal with such kind of issues. So there's new inventions, new ideas come up, okay, to be discussed and then to sharpen their thought. And perhaps this is also the effort how to answer the current problems about the global warming and global crisis, right? And so on. So this about Muhammadiyah.
Now that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Asia Wide. Join us next week where we'll be connecting you again to the issues facing the world's largest Muslim community. Until then, join the conversation online and share your thoughts at Islam Channel CA using the hashtag AsiaWide or email us at the address below. Have a great week and see you in the next edition.